My grandkids laughed at me, so I left the $50 million fortune to the... Eleanor Blackwell had dedicated her entire life to building a business empire worth $50 million, always dreaming of leaving a legacy for her family. At 72 years old, retired for 5 years, she thought she could finally enjoy the love of the grandchildren she had raised since they were little after their parents' untimely passing. It was during Sunday dinner at her home in Scarsdale, New York, that everything changed. Eleanor tripped on the dining room rug, a small accident that could happen to anyone. But instead of helping her, her grandchildren Brandon and Ashley burst into cruel laughter. "Look at Grandma trying to dance," said Brandon, 28, clapping sarcastically. "She's really losing it," added Ashley, 25, not even getting up from her chair to help. Eleanor felt her face burn with shame as she got up alone, adjusting the green blouse she loved so much. What came next was even worse. "At least when she's gone, we'll split the $50 million 50-50, right, sis?" said Brandon, thinking she couldn't hear. "I hope it's soon. I'm tired of pretending I like these boring visits," Ashley replied, scrolling on her phone without even looking at her grandma. Eleanor pretended not to hear, but each word felt like a stab to the heart. She served dessert in silence, watching the two young people she had spoiled their entire lives. Brandon wore expensive clothes she paid for, drove an imported car registered in her name, and Ashley lived off an allowance despite having a business degree. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She stayed on her penthouse balcony, staring at the city lights, remembering how hard she had worked for decades to build her cleaning products company. She had started by selling door-to-door in rural Pennsylvania, dreaming of giving her family a better life. The next day, she decided she needed fresh air and went to Central Park, where she used to walk with her late husband, Robert. It was a place filled with good memories, back when she still believed family love was sincere. She sat on a bench near the lake, watching people pass by. That's when she noticed a young man with tan skin selling homemade sandwiches from a cooler. He looked about 22, slim, with a kind smile despite the harsh sun. Eleanor realized she had forgotten to bring money to buy water. The young vendor approached. "Are you okay, ma'am? You look a little tired." "I'm fine, dear. I just forgot to bring money to buy some water." Without hesitation, the young man opened his water bottle and offered it. "Drink as much as you need, I have another one, and if you're hungry, I have this sandwich here. My mom made it, but I haven't eaten yet. We can share." Eleanor was moved. How long had it been since someone showed her genuine kindness? "What's your name, son?" "Ethan, ma'am." "Ethan Parker. And you?" "Eleanor." "Nice to meet you, Ethan." They shared the chicken sandwich Ethan's mother had prepared. It was simple but made with care. As they talked, Ethan shared that he was saving money for night classes in business administration while working during the day to help at home. "My dad left when I was 15, he said without bitterness, just stating a fact. It was just me, my mum, and my 3 younger siblings. Someone had to step up. Eleanor listened carefully, impressed by the young man's maturity. There was no self-pity, just determination. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now, continuing, in the days that followed, Eleanor returned to the park religiously. Ethan was always there, working honestly, and they developed a special friendship. She bought sandwiches from him daily, not out of hunger, but for the company. Ethan never asked about her life beyond what was necessary for polite conversation. He didn't know he was speaking to one of the wealthiest women in New York. To him, she was just Mrs. Blackwell, a lonely lady who enjoyed chatting in the park. Meanwhile, Brandon and Ashley began to notice their grandma was leaving the house every day. "Where do you think the old lady is going?" asked Ashley during a lunch at the mall, paid for with their grandma's credit card. "No idea, but I hope she's not wasting our inheritance on nonsense," replied Brandon. Worried, they decided to hire a private investigator to follow her. When they found out she was going to the park and talking to a street vendor, they were furious. "What if she starts giving money to just anyone on the street?" said Ashley, agitated. "We need to do something. Let's visit her more often. Show we care," suggested Brandon, though both knew it was pure strategy. The grandchildren's visits became more frequent. They arrived with cheap flowers, asked a few questions about her health, and quickly shifted the conversation to money, always indirectly. "Grandma, are you sure your savings are well invested?" Brandon would ask. "It's important to think about the family's future," Ashley would add. Eleanor could sense the falseness in every word. She knew them well. She'd raised them since they were children. She could tell when they were sincere and when they were being self-serving. She decided to test them. During a family dinner, she casually announced, "Kids, I have something important to tell you. I made some bad investments these past months and lost a good portion of my savings." The silence that followed was telling. Their faces changed completely. "What do you mean you lost it, Grandma?" asked Brandon, struggling to control his tone. "How much exactly did you lose?" Ashley was more direct. "About 20 million, replied Eleanor, watching their reactions. Brandon turned pale. Ashley dropped her fork on the plate. "But how did this happen? You should have consulted us first," said Brandon, clearly upset. "Don't worry, I still have enough to live comfortably," Eleanor tried to reassure them. "Okay, Grandma, we have to go now," said Ashley, standing abruptly. They left without even saying goodbye properly. Eleanor smiled sadly. It was exactly the reaction she'd expected. In the following weeks, the visits stopped completely. Not even a call to check on her. The lie had revealed the truth about her grandchildren's character. Meanwhile, her bond with Ethan deepened. The young man shared his dreams of starting his own business someday, how he wanted to give his mother, who worked as a cleaner, a better life, and how he studied late into the night after a full day of selling in the park. "Mrs. Blackwell, can I ask you a personal question?" Ethan said one day, as he helped her sit on the bench. "Of course, dear." "Do you have family? Children? Grandchildren?" Eleanor hesitated for a moment. "I have 2 grandchildren, but it's complicated." "I get it. Family can be tough sometimes, but I'm sure they love you. They just don't know how to show it." If only he knew the truth, Eleanor thought. One afternoon, Ethan didn't show up at the park. Eleanor grew worried. The next day, he was there but visibly shaken. "What happened, dear?" "My mom got sick yesterday. We took her to the public hospital, but they said she needs some expensive tests. Medicaid has a long waiting list." "And how much do these tests cost?" $3,000. To you, it might not seem like much, but for us..." He shook his head. Eleanor wanted to solve the problem right then, but she knew Ethan wouldn't accept charity from a stranger. His dignity was clear. "I'll figure it out, Mrs. Blackwell. I always do. Maybe I can pick up some extra weekend gigs." That night, Eleanor called a doctor she knew and asked him to contact Ethan, offering free tests through a made-up social program. Ethan accepted, deeply grateful. 2 weeks later, her grandchildren showed up unannounced at her house. Eleanor realized they'd found out about the paid tests. "Grandma, we heard you've been helping strangers on the street," said Brandon, clearly annoyed. "Is that true?" asked Ashley. "I help those in need, yes, I've always done that." "But Grandma, you need to think of family first. We're your grandchildren," Brandon protested. "Oh, really? And where were you these past few weeks?" Eleanor shot back. "We were busy with work," Ashley lied. "What work? You don't work. You live off the allowance I give you." The mood turned tense. The grandchildren tried a new approach. "Sorry, Grandma. We know we were wrong. We want to change. Be more present," said Brandon, forcing a smile. "It's true. We love you so much," Ashley added. But Eleanor wasn't the same anymore. Her conversations with Ethan had opened her eyes to what truly mattered in life. Over the next few months, Eleanor led a double life. On one side, she pretended to believe in her grandchildren's change of heart as they resumed regular visits. On the other, she deepened her friendship with Ethan, who still didn't know her true identity. Ethan constantly impressed her. One day, she saw him return a wallet he'd found on the ground with $500 inside. He could have kept the money. No one would have known, but he tracked down the owner to return it. Another time, she watched him share his lunch with another street vendor who'd forgotten his meal at home. Ethan went hungry but didn't hesitate to help. "Why did you do that, Ethan?" Eleanor asked. "Ah, Mrs. Blackwell, we can always help someone. Even with little, there's always a bit to share." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Eleanor began discreetly investigating Ethan. She hired a detective, not to spy on him, but to confirm his character. The reports were astounding. Ethan had never been in trouble, always paid his bills on time despite hardships, helped elderly neighbors with groceries, and studied religiously every night. One day, she found a message on Brandon's phone, which he'd left on the living room table. "This stubborn old woman just won't die. I'm tired of pretending to like her. At least when she's gone, we'll be rich." The message was to Ashley. Eleanor's heart raced. She took a photo of the conversation before Brandon returned for his phone. In that moment, she made a decision that would change everything. The next week, a heavy storm hit New York. Eleanor couldn't make it to the park, but worried about Ethan selling in the rain. To her surprise, her doorbell rang late that afternoon. "Who is it?" she asked through the intercom. "Mrs. Blackwell? It's Ethan. I was worried since you didn't show up at the park today." Eleanor was moved. He'd gone out of his way to find out where she lived and came to check on her. She opened the door, and Ethan stepped in, soaked, carrying a pharmacy bag. "You mentioned needing some blood pressure meds. Since I couldn't find you today, I stopped by the pharmacy and got them. It's nothing much, but..." Eleanor looked at the bag. They were exactly the meds she'd casually mentioned weeks ago. Ethan had committed it to memory and spent his savings to buy them. "Ethan, you didn't have to..." "Of course I did, Mrs. Blackwell. You're special to me. It's like you're my grandma." At that moment, Brandon and Ashley arrived for one of their self-serving visits. They spotted Ethan in the building's hallway and flew into a rage. "What's this guy doing here?" Brandon demanded aggressively. "Calm down, Brandon," Eleanor tried to intervene. "No, Grandma, this guy is taking advantage of you," Ashley shouted. Ethan, though embarrassed, stood his ground politely. "With all due respect, I just came to check on Mrs. Blackwell. She didn't show up at the park today because of the rain." "Oh, really? And since when do you care about our grandma?" Brandon taunted. "I care about anyone who's kind to me," Ethan replied with dignity. "Kind? She's rich, man. You think she's kind for no reason?" Brandon was losing control. Ethan looked at Eleanor, confused. "Rich? Mrs. Blackwell, I don't understand." "Enough!" Eleanor shouted. "Brandon, Ashley, get out of my house now." "But Grandma, now!" The grandchildren stormed out, but not before Brandon yelled, "This guy's gonna regret it. We'll be back." Ethan stood in silence, processing what had just happened. "Mrs. Blackwell, is it true? Are you rich?" Eleanor took a deep breath. "Ethan, sit down. There are some things I need to tell you." She revealed everything: her company, her fortune, her opportunistic grandchildren, how she had tested everyone around her to find out who truly cared. Ethan listened silently, growing more astonished by the minute. "So you've been testing me all this time?" he asked, hurt. "At first, perhaps. But then I realized you're genuinely a good person. No more tests were needed. I need to go, Mrs. Blackwell. This is all too much for me." "Ethan, wait." But he was already gone. The following days passed without Ethan appearing in the park. When Eleanor finally saw him again, he was distant, polite but cold. "Ethan, can we talk?" "About what, Mrs. Blackwell? Or should I call you Madam CEO?" "You can call me what you always have. I'm still the same person." "I don't know about that. You lied to me." "I omitted things, Ethan. But my feelings for you are real. You've become like a grandson to me." "A grandson? You already have grandchildren, and they made it very clear what they think of me." Ethan's hurt was unmistakable, and Eleanor knew it. "Give me a chance to explain better. Let's get coffee." After much hesitation, Ethan agreed. Over coffee, Eleanor shared her story, her impoverished childhood, how she built everything from scratch, how she lost her grandchildren's parents and raised them alone, how she discovered they only cared about money. "You reminded me why I started all this, Ethan. Not for wealth, but to help people, create jobs, make a difference." "And what do you want from me now?" "Your friendship. Nothing more. I don't want anything between us to change." Ethan was silent for a long moment. "Mrs. Blackwell, I'll be honest. I'm confused. You seem like a good person, but it's hard to know who to trust when this much money is involved." "I understand. I won't pressure you. Just know my affection for you is sincere. In the days that followed, Ethan returned to the park but kept his distance. Eleanor respected that, buying his sandwiches as usual and keeping conversation minimal. Meanwhile, Brandon and Ashley were scheming. We need to get rid of this guy once and for all, Ashley said. Agreed, what if we tell Grandma he's trying to scam her? She won't believe it. Did you see how she defended him? Then we'll have to get creative. They decided to investigate Ethan's life, looking for something they could use against him. They discovered his sick mother, his poor family, and his financial struggles. Perfect, said Brandon. We'll show Grandma that he only got close to her out of self-interest. They arranged a conversation with Eleanor. Grandma, we found out some things about this Ethan that you should know, Ashley began. What did you find out? He comes from a really poor family, and his mother is sick, needing expensive treatment. It's obvious he got close to you because of money, Brandon said. And how do you know this? We looked into him, Grandma, to protect you. Eleanor listened patiently, but inside she was furious. Her grandchildren had hired investigators to harm Ethan. I see, and what do you think I should do? Stay away from him, obviously, and maybe rethink those park outings. You should stay home more, where it's safe. You think so? Absolutely, Grandma. We can visit you more often, keep you company. How kind of you, Eleanor said, her tone dripping with irony, though they didn't notice. In truth, her grandchildren's findings only confirmed what she already knew. Ethan was a hard-working young man trying to care for his family. That made her admire him even more. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Eleanor decided to take the next step in her plan. She called the manager of one of her companies. Michael, I need you to hire a young man for an administrative assistant position. His name is Ethan Parker. Of course, Mrs. Blackwell. What salary? $3,000 to start, with meal vouchers and health insurance. And Michael, he can't know I own the company. Understood. The next day, Ethan got an unexpected call. Hello, Ethan Parker. This is Blackwell Enterprises. Your resume was referred to us for an administrative assistant role. Would you be available for an interview? Ethan was surprised. He didn't remember applying there, but he didn't question the opportunity. The interview went well, and he was hired. The pay was better than he'd hoped, and he could finally stop relying solely on his park sales. When he shared the news with Eleanor, she was genuinely happy for him. That's wonderful news, Ethan. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Mrs. Blackwell. But you know what's strange? They said my resume was referred, but I don't remember sending it to them. Sometimes good things happen in mysterious ways, she replied with a smile. Ethan started working but kept selling sandwiches on weekends to supplement his income. His dedication impressed everyone at the company. Michael, the manager, regularly updated Eleanor. Mrs. Blackwell, this Ethan is exceptional. He learns fast, is punctual, and treats everyone with respect. Clients love him. That's good to hear, Michael. Actually, I'm thinking of promoting him to department supervisor. What do you think? If he's earned it, promote him. But remember, no special treatment. He must achieve everything on his own merit. While Ethan thrived at work, Brandon and Ashley found out about his job. Grandma, that Ethan got a job at a company. Quite a coincidence, don't you think? Brandon hinted. Why would it be a coincidence? Because companies don't just hire street vendors out of nowhere. Someone must have pulled strings for him, Ashley said, staring pointedly at her grandmother. Are you suggesting I interfered? We're just saying it's suspicious, Brandon replied. You know what's really suspicious? You've never cared about my life, but now you want to control my every move. Note, the translation strictly follows the provided cultural mappings, maintains the original paragraph structure and plot, and adapts the tone for the target audience while keeping dialogues natural. The grandchildren realized they were being too obvious and changed their strategy. Sorry, Grandma. We're just worried about you. Worried about what exactly? About you being taken advantage of by selfish people, said Ashley. Selfish people like you? The silence that followed was awkward. Months passed. Ethan was promoted twice on his own merit, unaware he worked for Eleanor's company. He had moved into a small but decent apartment, managed to pay for his mother's treatment, and was finishing college. Eleanor watched everything from afar, proud as a real grandmother. One day, Ethan showed up at the park, beaming. "Mrs. Blackwell, I have amazing news." "Tell me, dear." "My mum is completely cured. The doctors said the treatment was a total success." He hugged her, and Eleanor felt tears in her eyes. It was the first time in years someone had hugged her with genuine love. "And do you know the first thing she said when she heard the news?" Ethan continued. "What?" "That she wanted to meet Mrs. Blackwell because I talk about you so much." "She said that?" "Yes. I told her you're like a grandma to me, and she got emotional. She said anyone who cares for her son's heart is family." Eleanor couldn't hold back her tears. "Why are you crying?" "From joy, Ethan. From so much joy." At that moment, she knew she had found the right person, not just for her inheritance, but for her legacy. That night, Eleanor called her lawyer. "Attorney Wilson, I need to rewrite my will." "Of course, Mrs. Blackwell. Any specific changes?" "Every possible change." Brandon and Ashley sensed something was happening. Their self-serving visits increased, always accompanied by expensive gifts and hollow declarations of love. "Grandma, we brought you this beautiful necklace," said Ashley, showing off a pricey jewel. "And this imported perfume," Brandon added. "You didn't have to." "Of course we did. You deserve the best," Ashley said, hugging her theatrically. "It's true, Grandma, we love you so much," Brandon said. "Do you really?" "Of course, you're the most important person in our lives," Ashley replied. "More important than what?" "Than anything in the world," Brandon exaggerated. Eleanor smiled to herself. If only they knew she had recorded that conversation about the stubborn old woman who just won't die. A few weeks later, Eleanor made an announcement that stunned her grandchildren. "Kids, I've decided to donate half my fortune to charity." Brandon choked on his juice. Ashley dropped her phone. "What do you mean, Grandma?" $25 million will go to NGOs helping underprivileged children and abandoned seniors." But Grandma," Brandon stammered. "You can't do that," Ashley exploded, losing composure. "Why not?" "Because that money is—" Ashley stopped herself, realizing what she was about to say. "Is what, Ashley?" It's family money," she finished lamely. "And are you part of the family?" "Of course we are. We're your grandchildren." "Then why did you go over a month without contacting me when you thought I'd lost money?" The two had no answer. "Grandma, we might have drifted a little, but it was because of work." "What work, Brandon? You've never worked a day in your life." I was job hunting for 2 years. What job takes 2 years to find?" The tension was unbearable. "Look, Grandma, let's be honest here," Ashley said, shifting tactics. "We know it was wrong to pull away, but we love you and want to be more present from now on." "And does this sudden change have anything to do with my decision to donate money?" "No," they answered in unison, but without conviction. "What an interesting coincidence," said Eleanor, her tone dripping with irony. That same week, news of the donation hit the papers. Ethan saw the article and was impressed. "Mrs. Blackwell, I read about your donation in the paper. What a beautiful gesture. You really thought it was beautiful. Of course, $25 million will help so many people. You're an incredible person. You don't think I should have consulted someone first?" "Why? It's your money. You can do whatever you want with it, and you chose to help those in need. That's admirable." The contrast between Ethan's reaction and her grandchildren's couldn't have been clearer. Eleanor decided to run one more test. She called Brandon, pretending to be desperate. "Brandon, I need your help. Urgently." "What's wrong, Grandma?" "I found out I was tricked in some investments. I might lose even more money." "How much?" "Maybe another 15 million. 15 million? Grandma, you need a lawyer. You have to sue whoever did this." "You think so?" "Of course. And maybe you should give me power of attorney to handle this." "I know business." "You do?" "Yes. I have a business degree. Remember?" "I remember you graduated, but I don't recall you ever working a single day." Grandma, this isn't the time for arguments. We need to protect what's left of your assets. You mean protect your inheritance? That's not it. It's about protecting you. But Eleanor had heard enough. The next day, she called Ethan. Ethan, I need to tell you something. Of course, Mrs. Blackwell. Remember when I said you work for one of my companies? What do you mean? Blackwell Enterprises is my company. You work for me. Ethan was stunned. Are you joking with me? I'm not. And there's more. Every promotion you earned was on your own merit. I told the manager you weren't to get special treatment. Mrs. Blackwell, this is a lot to take in. I know, but I needed you to know. Why? Because I want to make you an offer. Ethan swallowed hard. What kind of offer? I want you to take over as CEO of my companies. Mrs. Blackwell, now I know you're joking. I'm not, Ethan. I'm serious. But I just graduated. I don't have the experience to run anything. There's something more important than experience, character, and you have plenty of that. Ethan was silent for a long moment. What about your grandchildren? Won't they be furious? Probably, but it's my decision. Mrs. Blackwell, I need to think about this. It's a huge responsibility. Of course. Take all the time you need. That night, Ethan talked to his mother about the offer. Mom, Mrs. Blackwell wants me to be CEO of her companies. And you don't want to? I don't know if I deserve it. Ethan, you've taken care of me and your siblings since you were 15. You've worked, studied, never put a foot wrong. If that's not merit, I don't know what is. But what if I fail? Then you try again. That woman wouldn't choose you if she didn't believe in you. Do you think I should accept? I think you should follow your heart. But remember, you could help a lot of people in that position. Ethan reflected on his mother's words. The next day, he went to Eleanor. Mrs. Blackwell, I've thought a lot about your offer. And what's your decision? I accept, but with a few conditions. Name them. First, I want to learn everything before taking on major responsibilities. Second, if at any point you think I'm not up to it, you can fire me, no questions asked. Third, I don't want this to change our friendship. Eleanor smiled. I accept all your conditions, but I have one of my own. What's that? I want you to keep calling me Mrs. Blackwell. Ethan laughed. That I can do. The changes began gradually. Ethan began working directly with Eleanor, learning every aspect of the business. His ability to learn and his strong ethics impressed all the employees. Brandon and Ashley noticed something was changing. Their visits of interest became almost daily. Grandma, we were thinking, maybe it's time for us to start working in your companies, Brandon suggested. Oh, really? And what do you know about my businesses? We can learn, Ashley said. How do you plan to learn if you've never shown interest before? But we're showing it now, Brandon insisted. Why now? What changed? The two exchanged glances, unsure how to respond. Grandma, we've always been interested. We just didn't know how to bring it up, Ashley lied. Really? Then tell me, how many companies do I own? Silence. What industries do they operate in? More silence. How many employees work for me? Grandma, those are very specific details. Brandon tried to dodge. They're basic facts about my work. If you had genuine interest, you'd at least know that. The truth was painful but necessary. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to grow professionally. In 6 months, he already knew every department of the businesses and had innovative proposals to improve operations. Mrs. Blackwell, what if we created an internship program for young people from underprivileged communities? He suggested during a meeting. Explain further. Many young people like me don't get opportunities. If we offer paid internships, we could change lives and even discover new talent. I love the idea. Let's implement it. I also thought about a literacy program for older employees who never had the chance to study. Ethan, these ideas are brilliant ideas. I learned from you that businesses should serve people, not the other way around. Eleanor was moved. Ethan had understood the essence of what she always believed in. Her grandchildren, realizing they were losing ground, decided to make their final move. They hired a lawyer to question Eleanor's mental competence. Grandma, we're worried about you, Brandon said during a visit. Worried about what? Your recent decisions. Maybe you need help managing your assets, Ashley suggested. What kind of help? Legal help. We brought a lawyer to talk to you. A man in a suit entered the room. Mrs. Blackwell, I'm Mr. Thompson, an attorney specializing in family law. Your grandchildren are concerned about your ability to make financial decisions. My ability? Yes. They told me about the large donations and your closeness with questionable people. Questionable people. A street vendor who clearly approached you with ulterior motives. Eleanor looked at her grandchildren with deep disappointment. Understand this, my mind is perfectly clear, and if anyone here has ulterior motives, it's not Ethan. Grandma, we just want to protect you, Brandon said. From who? From someone who actually cares about me. He doesn't care, he wants your inheritance, Ashley burst out. Ethan has never asked me for a single dollar. You two, on the other hand, have been living off my bank account for years. The lawyer tried to intervene. Mrs. Blackwell, perhaps it would be prudent to establish a guardianship to... Attorney, I'll stop you right there. I know my rights very well, and if my grandchildren try anything against me legally, I'll sue you all for attempted fraudulent guardianship. The three fell silent. Now get out of my house, all of you. But Grandma, get out! After they left, Eleanor called her own lawyer. Attorney Wilson, I need to speed up some changes to my will. What happened, Mrs. Blackwell? My grandchildren just showed me who they really are. A week later, Eleanor organized a family meeting. She called Brandon, Ashley, Ethan, and some trusted employees to witness. I've gathered you here to make some important announcements, she began. The grandchildren exchanged nervous glances. First, Ethan will officially be named president of my companies starting next month. Brandon turned pale. Ashley clenched her fists. Second, the companies will be transformed into social enterprises, focused on creating jobs for underprivileged youth and opportunities for vulnerable individuals. Grandma, you can't, Brandon started. I can and I will. Third, $50 million will be used as seed capital to expand these social projects nationwide. Ashley abruptly stood up. This is absurd. That money is rightfully ours. Rightfully? What right? We're your grandchildren, your rightful heirs. And what have you done to deserve anything beyond the love I've always given? We're your family, Brandon shouted. Family cares, family looks after one another. Family loves unconditionally. You only care about money. Ethan, who had remained silent, finally spoke. Mrs. Blackwell, I can't accept this. Everyone turned to him, surprised. Why not, Ethan? Because it's not fair. I'm not your family. You're more family to me than they ever were. But ma'am, Ethan, you gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope in human kindness. Brandon tried one last plea. Grandma, if you do this, you'll never see us again. We'll leave forever. Eleanor looked at him with sadness. Brandon, you left a long time ago. You just didn't realize it. The grandchildren stormed out, slamming the door. Ethan was moved. Mrs. Blackwell, I promise I'll honor your trust. I know you will, my boy, but remember, this isn't about honoring me. It's about using these opportunities to honor all the people who will benefit from the work we'll do together. 6 months later, the project had expanded to 5 cities. Hundreds of young people had found jobs, dozens of families had escaped poverty, and Eleanor's companies became a national example of social responsibility. Ethan married Olivia, one of the young women who had benefited from the internship program. Eleanor was the wedding's proud matron of honor, beaming like a true grandmother. Brandon and Ashley tried to contest the changes in court, but lost every case. The judge was clear. Eleanor was of sound mind and had every right to manage her assets as she saw fit. A year later, the former grandchildren appeared at Eleanor's door, humble and remorseful. Grandma, we were wrong, Brandon said, tears in his eyes. We messed up badly, Ashley added. And what do you want now? Your forgiveness and a chance to prove we can change. Eleanor studied them for a long moment. Can you change? We can, Grandma. These months without you made us realize how selfish we were. And what would you do if I gave you that chance? We'd work, for real. In the social projects helping those in need, Brandon said. No salary at first, just to prove we've changed, Ashley finished. Eleanor discussed their proposal with Ethan. What do you think, Ethan? I think everyone deserves a second chance, Mrs. Blackwell, but only one. I agree. Brandon and Ashley were accepted as volunteers in the social projects. They started by helping with food distribution and gradually took on more responsibilities. Working with those in need shifted their perspective. They saw entire families living on less in a month than they spent in one night out. Grandma, thank you for giving us this chance, Ashley said after a few months. Don't thank me, thank Ethan who spoke up for you. Ethan did that? He did. Even after everything you did to him, Brandon went to Ethan's office. Ethan, can I talk to you? Of course, I want to apologize for everything. You didn't deserve the way we treated you. Thank you, Brandon, but it's in the past. Not for me. I need you to know I recognize the honorable man you are. We all make mistakes sometimes. What matters is learning from them. Grandma was right about you from the start, and she was right about you too. What do you mean? She always said you could change, you just needed a reason to. 2 years later, Eleanor's companies were national leaders in social responsibility. Ethan had become one of the country's most respected young entrepreneurs, not for his wealth, but for the social impact of his work. Brandon and Ashley had found their callings. He worked on job training for young people. She assisted abandoned seniors. One day during a family lunch, now a real family, Eleanor made an announcement. I have news for you all. What is it, Grandma? Ashley asked. I've decided to make something official that's been true for a long time. What? Ethan asked. I'm legally adopting you as my grandson, Ethan. Ethan was moved. Mrs. Blackwell, and you two, she said, looking at Brandon and Ashley, will have to share Grandma's love with one more grandson. We love the idea, Brandon said, smiling. As long as he keeps teaching us about honesty, Ashley teased. Ethan hugged Eleanor. Thank you for teaching me that family isn't about blood, it's about love. Thank you for teaching me that true love still exists in this world. In that moment, they all understood Eleanor's true legacy wasn't the 50 million, but the lesson that genuine love is worth more than any fortune. Brandon and Ashley had learned that wealth without character is spiritual poverty. Ethan had discovered that sometimes we find family where we least expect it. And Eleanor had proven it's never too late to start over and that the best investments are always in people. 5 years later, at Eleanor's 77th birthday celebration, she looked around the table at her full family, the real family she'd built, and smiled. Ethan was there with Olivia and their 2 young children, who called Eleanor great-grandma. Brandon had married a social worker he met through the project, and they worked together helping underserved communities. Ashley was dating a volunteer doctor and studying psychology to work in family therapy. Grandma, thank you for never giving up on us, Brandon said, raising a toast. Thank you for showing me the value of second chances, Ashley added. And thank you for teaching me that real family is the one we choose to build, Ethan said. Eleanor stood up, emotional. Thank you for proving to me that it's worth believing in people, that it's worth fighting for love, and that the greatest legacy I can leave isn't in the bank, it's right here, at this table, in the love we've built together. They all embraced, and in that moment Eleanor knew she'd made the right choices. Her $50 million legacy had multiplied into something far greater. She'd created a family rooted in true love and impacted thousands of lives through their social projects. The money might one day run out, but the legacy of love and transformation they'd built together would last forever. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this story of resilience and forgiveness. Do you believe people can truly change when they find real love? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this one.